Hey, welcome everybody. We are doing a really special episode today of the Indie Reads Aloud podcast. Today we have a bunch of my author friends in the room, and we are going to be talking about NaNoWriMo coming up here very, very shortly. For those of you who don't know, NaNoWriMo is the National Novel Writing Month, and it happens every year in November. The challenge is for writers to write 50,000 words in 30 days. Now, can you go over 50,000 words? Absolutely. Can you go under 50,000 words? Of course. This is not, this is not like today I was watching sailboat racing on television during dinner, which is amazing because now they're doing hydrofoiling and they were going 60 miles an hour on the water off south of France, which is,
oh my God.
I know, it was crazy. And one boat actually ran into the bow of another. The stern of another while they were crossing line of direction. And it was crazy. This is not that. This is, we're going to sit down, we're going to write 50,000 words. Traditionally, the goal is you start a brand new project in November. Writing a novel, writing a nonfiction piece. It used to be very, very strict when they first started. You could only write a novel. You could only start a new project, like, the novel police was going to catch you if you did something different. Well, what they discovered over the years is that so many different writers write differently. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of broadened the whole spectrum and they said, okay, let's just throw it out there and make it fun. So now we, as writers, fall into two camps, either traditional NaNoWriMo writers or rebels. I am going to be a rebel this year because I started a new novel last year. Yeah, me and Marianne, we did it last year. New novel last year. This year, a lot of things happened over the summer and I wasn't able to finish it. So I'm finishing it this November.
Me too.
Yeah. So tonight in the room, we have Marianne Wieland. We have Shawnee Smith, we have Ruby Fink, Michael Beardsley, Christian and Jacob Bullen, husband and wife team. Oh my God, they are great. And Rain, SW Rain, she also writes really cool, fun steampunk. Oh my God, you guys. Okay, so first of all, every author we have in the room is an amazing human being. They're all gifted and talented authors, and they all write faster than I can read. So either one of two things has to happen, folks. Either you need to slow down so that I can catch up. Jacob, stop shaking your head now. So you need to either slow down so I can catch up, or you have to start hiring me to edit your work so that at least I can read it as you go. Okay? That's how that works. All right. So welcome everybody into the room. I'm so glad to have everybody here tonight. We might have more people joining us as we go. First of all, let's take a poll around the room. Everybody turn on your microphone so that we can hear from you, because after all, this is radio. So it would be helpful if you guys could talk. Everybody just chime in. Let me know if you're doing NaNoWriMo this year. Are you going to be traditional? Are you going to be a rebel? And tell me what genre you plan on writing. Let's start with Marianne.
I'm going to be a rebel. I'm going to finish the one that I started, the 2 chapters I have left from last year, and probably start the next one in the Henry series. That's my plan. That's my plan. Whether it goes that way, I'm not sure.
So let everybody know what genre it is.
Oh, I'm the one that I'm finishing is romantic comedy with a mystery. And the one I hope to start is military intrigue.
Awesome. So. Very cool. Yeah, Marianne, like me, writes in different genres, so we're just crazy. Ruby, tell us what you plan to do this year.
Well, I would like to finish up my romance novel because it's been sitting on a shelf for a while and I've got about 20,000 words left, and I can usually ghostwrite that amount in a month. So
Isn't it interesting how our stuff goes on the back burner when we write for a living? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, the stuff that you get paid for has to get done first so that you can eat, and then you can survive long enough to keep writing a couple more pages. And I might hire you to edit it because I'm fairly sure some of it doesn't make any sense.
I'm happy to help.
Definitely a rebel this month.
So you're gonna do romance this year?
Yes, we will see how it goes. I don't know if I do it well, but you can let me know. Be honest, please let me know if it's horrible.
Okay. Absolutely. We're all friendly critiquers here. Okay. And also, those of you who don't know, Ruby writes an amazing middle grade detective series, very similar to Encyclopedia Brown, for those of us who remember him. Super fun stuff. Catch the podcast with Ruby reading. It's just so much fun.
Thank you.
Michael, tell us about your NaNoWriMo journey this year.
I'd like to finish up part of the series of the White Lake Road Chronicles, and I'm currently working on the number 7, which is called The Patron Saint of Trumpet Players. Wow. So I'd like to do that. Another option might be something called the Chicago Pool Tournament, which features a gentleman who passed away, went to heaven, and is going to be playing in a billiard tournament with 10 of his former dogs.
Oh, fun. It's the painting come to life. That's awesome.
That's what I was thinking.
So those are one of the two options. Right now, leaning towards the patron saint of trumpet, first chair trumpet players.
Very cool. Shawnee Smith, welcome to our crazy band of misfits. As you can, I'm hoping already tell, we're a friendly, welcoming group, and I hope to see you around the Facebook and interwebs and mayhem as time goes on. So tell us a little bit about your Nano project for this year.
Oh, thank you, Diana, for inviting me. And this is actually my first time hearing about it when you sent the invitation.
Oh, wow, a newbie.
It's really lighting a fire under me because I plan on writing the 3rd book in my series, Kima's Story, where the title is When Joy Comes.
Excellent. So cool. I love it when we get new authors in our community, because then I get to be excited all over again. So much fun. All right, Charlie, get down. There we go. So Rain, SW Rain writes steampunk. Are you going to write steampunk again this year, Rain?
I am not, because I write steampunk and urban fantasy. I have my urban fantasy part 1 of my trilogy coming out in February.
Oh, very
exciting. So I am both a rebel and traditional, in the sense that I am rewriting part 2.
Wow. Okay. So starting over, but with some already established stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
I wrote it originally in 2013, so I have definitely bettered myself, bettered my craft. So we're gonna start from scratch.
Sure.
But based off of what I had already written.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. Very cool. Jacob, Christian, you guys are on the same screen. I'm going to talk to you one at a time. And Jacob, just because, you know, it's a thing. Christian, you get to go first. I love you, Jacob, but you know.
So I'm going to be a little bit of both traditional and a rebel. I am hopefully finishing up my first draft of my romance novel this evening.
Nice.
So I'm going to let that one sit, but I have about 7,000 words of a romantic comedy that I had started to work on last year that I'm going to fully outline and develop for NaNoWriMo. So
awesome. Very cool. Okay, so Jacob, you're working on what, book number 672?
Like that.
Yeah.
What are you doing this November, Jacob?
Hopefully going to be finishing my psychological thriller, The Dreamscape.
Right.
about a young woman who has amnesia. She's trying to reclaim the pieces of her life in the 1930s and wakes up in another world. It's kind of my retelling of The Wizard of Oz. It's got a lot of Alice in Wonderland, a lot of 1930s pop culture it's in this world that she's found herself in. And it's about this journey to rediscover herself and then come to terms with who she is as a person as she's helping this young woman named Alice reclaim her kingdom from this being called the Morgos.
Very fun. Oh my God. All right. See,
I
guys,
don't know if
Jacob is another one of those people that needs to slow down because I'm editing his work and I can barely keep up editing. So thank you, Jacob. But really, you two, the two of you, the powerhouse team, they write like crazy. Yeah, Jacob does it all longhand.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
He has that. I have this. It's fine.
Okay, so they're doing both, but the part that boggles my brain about the Bullen team is that they have two children that are both very, very active and under the age of 12. And I don't know how they do it all and write consistently and keep their house from not catching fire. So
My son,
hats off to both of you
Okay,
guys.
he kind of does catch fire.
we have extinguishers.
my son is 5, and I signed him up for the Young Writers Program this year.
Awesome.
Oh,
That's
that's cool.
great. We're
That's really
getting them
cool.
early. I like it.
Yes.
Jacob's
He's
daughter
excited.
Ashlyn also writes. So much fun. I love that we're catching them early. So let's dive right into this conversation. Most of us are return offenders, but Shani's new to the program. So I'd like to start just going around and if each one of you, let's give Shani the benefit of our wacky experience with this project. First of all, Shani, what state are you coming to us from?
Right now I'm visiting in Tennessee, but my home is in Maryland, but I'm visiting my hometown in Nashville.
Out on the East Coast, yeah.
The rest of us, with the exception of Ruby, are in Michigan, and Ruby, you're in Georgia, right?
Arkansas.
Okay. That's that word I can't spell.
Arkansas. I'm in Arkansas.
Oh, Kansas, right. So I'd like to go around the room just real quick and everybody share a little piece of encouragement or a tip or a trick that Shani and maybe some of our listeners out there who are brand new to the program, maybe we can help them kind of get started into this. So Rain, I know that you were on our Discord server last year. You're in ML.
I'm not anymore.
Well, yeah, but okay.
I stepped down.
Once a municipal liaison, always, right?
Yes, I was officially a municipal liaison for 6 years, and the Detroit region is really, really big. So we enlist the help of what we call minions.
Yes.
And before becoming a municipal liaison, I was a minion for a few years as well. This is my 17th year doing Nano.
Oh, wow.
And I can definitely tell you that the community is what makes it amazing. It's what pushes you to finish. It's what pushes you to reach your daily word count, meeting up with other people who are in the same boat as you, meeting up with people who are super ahead but cheering you on all the same. Like, it is just amazing. And I always struggled at first in the beginning. I was on the last day 10,000 words behind, and it was an all day 10,000 words. But once I started getting into the community,
it got easier, didn't it?
It got easier. I'm now usually ahead of the curve depending on what's going on in my life, but it's so easy when you have more than one other person doing it with you.
Oh yeah. The the gentle support that we get from each other, I think, is fantastic. And
Mhm.
there are some, depending on what region you participate in, and now with the internet, you know, somebody in Europe can participate with the Detroit chapter, which I think is a phenomenal idea.
Mhm.
Before COVID, we used to do these things in person. And that's really a cool thing, but the community has really gotten bigger now that we can do it online as well. And so Shani, and those of you out there who have never tried this before, the idea is 50,000 words in 30 days, which is 1,667 words a day.
Mhm.
Which, when you consider that a page is, depending on your font size, between 250 and 300 words per page, that's like 6 pages a day. That's not impossible,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? It's not that big a deal. But the number just sounds so overwhelming. So if you chunk it down in little bits, I think it's easier to attack. So Grain, just real quick, coming up through the 17 years, what was the most valuable methodology, trick, tip that you found along your years that helped you to maintain your winning status?
Definitely cutting it down into chunks. I had, the full-time job. I have, a 5-year-old who he's been, doing it with me this whole time, technically.
Yeah.
Like when he was born, I was, holding him in my arms and I was dictating my novel. And I mean, so cutting it into small chunks is what I found was the most easiest way to do it. So my goal, because I like round numbers, is 2,000 words a day.
Yep.
Just because I'm like that. I need the round number. I can't do 1,667. I just can't.
I agree. I have a degree in English. I don't do math. So
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would, try to do 2,000 words before lunch.
Yep.
And then I would try and do it was 2,000 words before my son got up in the morning, because I get up early, so I had enough time.
Oh my God.
Then it was another 1,000 words before lunch or after lunch. And then it was another 1,000 words after he went to bed. But if you chunk that down even more, it was like 500 words right before breakfast. I can do 250 words during break at work. I can do another 500 words at work during lunch. Break it down into smaller, manageable chunks. Sure. Because, 2,000 words is big. 1,000 words is still big. 500 words is still big, depending on how much time you have. But you can find chunks of 100 words here, 100 words there, 100 words here.
Yeah, absolutely.
That adds up.
My sister-in-law wrote 3 books for Nano over the years, one for each of the 3 years. And she used to write 10 minutes at a time during her son, my nephew's soccer practice, while she's waiting in the car, waiting for him to, finish in the locker room or whatever. She'd write in the car waiting for him to come out. So yeah, if you chunk it, I think that tends to work really well. Ruby, any tips or tricks?
Biggest tip I have was something that my mentor Jack taught me, and it basically comes down, just try and get a first draft out. And because I do the write by hand first and then I type it up, because staring at a screen, I just lose track of all time, and I'm just staring at it like this kind of zombie for a while.
Right.
And so the hardest thing for me is to write down what I have here and then type it up, because that's technically a second draft, and I start having ideas as I'm typing it up. It's like, wait, why is this character doing this? This line is stupid. This is awful. And I start getting caught up and I'm trying to change the story. And then of course, then I'm enraptured by the computer screen and I'm just back to being a zombie again. So best advice I can give is, you're on a deadline. Try and get your first draft done.
Yeah.
Then you can go back, fix everything else, and kind of take it apart by chunks.
Quantity over quality is what we always told everyone as an ML.
Right. Yeah, the idea is how many words, not are they excellent words?
Yeah.
Right. The idea is I always tell people, vomit on the page and then pull out the bleach and clean it up later. You know? Jacob, you also write longhand, which I find astounding. And when Jacob's son was first born, I actually watched him hold this little teeny tiny infant in one hand and write his book longhand with a pen. I am still I got pictures of it because I was so stunned. I'm still to this day just blown away that you could manage that with your daughter hanging over your shoulder going, Daddy, give me hugs, you know, so I find it amazing. So Jacob, what would be as a longhand writer, what would be your best advice for Nano?
I've actually been practicing my computer writing, but with longhand, the best thing I can really do is actually the same as what I would do with the computer. I find some sort of music or some sort of background noise that fits my theme, fits my tone. And I write what I'm feeling in the moment. So I might start from chapter 1 and I'm going through and I'm writing and I'm writing and I'm like, I'm just not feeling this right now. I know the next 12 pages are going to be this. So I will leave myself a summary of what the next chunk looks like until I'm back in the flow of things. And then I just follow from there. So I'll finish a project. I mean, you're editing Godslayer right now. I finished that entire project in 53 days.
That's insane.
And
this is, that is mind-blowing to me as I'm editing it, because there's so few edit notes, you guys. It's just really tight writing. So I don't know how you do that in such a short period of time. That's just
and it's the same process. I just went through, we wrote the book out, and as things are flowing with me, that's what's getting written. Anything else, I'm just leaving myself a summary, a synopsis of what the next 2 chapters look like, and I'm directly back into what I'm feeling in the moment. And I have props all around me in my office. I have my music going on. It's kind of my environment, my element that I set up for myself. So I am completely mentally in my element.
Yeah.
When I'm working, and that's
awesome.
I'm not very good about sleeping either, but
Christian, what about you? How do you keep the momentum going while you're chasing 2 little ones?
Well, kind of, what Rain was saying. I mean, Jacob has the fortunate task of working at home, but I still have an office job. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, I have to run Ashlyn to cheer practice. So I find, I get 2 15-minute breaks at work. I have a half an hour lunch. So I take he has his yellow legal pads, but I have a Bluetooth keyboard and I have the Word app on my phone. And I just go sit in the break room. And for those 15 minutes, I try to get in as many words as I can. I'll eat my lunch at my desk. So when I go on lunch, I have a full half an hour to just completely devote my time to writing as many words as I can. And then on my last 15, that's what I do. When I'm at her cheer practice, I kind of sit off to the side. I can still kind of watch her in my peripheral, and I just try to write out as much as I can. And then, some nights it's kind of a trade-off. He gets, like on a Tuesday night, it's okay. It's his turn to go and, hide. And maybe on Thursday, it's my turn to go hide for a while, like where I'm interacting with you, but I really want to get this done. So I'm trying to, type and keep you guys in the background as I try to finish.
That's a very, very cool thing. I think that's what makes both of you such strong writers, is that you're not only partners in life, but you're partners in the writing process. So you support each other and help each other through it. I think that's an awesome thing that you guys do.
I mean, there's like, who better to understand the process than another writer? Like,
somebody else who is,
I'm feeling this, I need to go write. It's like, okay, I will, cover you with the kids for a while, and then, it's a trade-off. So it's okay. Now it's my turn.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Marianne, what about you? Last year was, I think, the first year that you did it, right?
Yes,
So
it was.
What was the biggest takeaway that you got from last year? What was the biggest thing that you learned from it last year?
I liked the word sprints, that pushed me forward to actually write. And I had seen Nano for years and I never did it because I thought, I cannot write on a deadline. There's no way I could do that. And you and I talked about it and I joined it. And it was the most fun thing I think I've ever done.
It was ridiculous silliness.
I wrote probably 80% of that book that should have been finished, but I didn't. But that really spurred me on. The only thing for me is I like to edit my stuff while I'm writing. So I would do the word sprints and it was a mess. I mean, it was everything was misspelled and I would go back after everything was over with and I would go and I would clean it up. I couldn't stand it. I had to clean it up. So, but that pushed me forward, seeing everybody else there and seeing how people were able to get so many words in during the time limit.
The silly, gentle competition, you know, the Detroit chapter breaks you up into these little groups, and each group is sort of in competition with each other, and we get the Michigan liaisons are brilliant in the way that they do this because they give you digital swag so that you get bragging rights.
That was cool. That was
and you
cool.
know what, it doesn't cost anything and it doesn't really mean anything, but oh my gosh, do you want to win it every night?
I know. That was so much fun. And I won a couple word sprints and I was so shocked when that happened, but I never did. I don't remember who won, which team won from last year.
I don't think
remember.
It matters.
It was my team because it was my first time winning.
Oh, which one were you?
Which animal? Were you the hedgehogs? Were you the owls?
No, we were the foxes.
The foxes,
okay.
really? Okay.
Okay. All right. Michael, do you have anything to add to this insanity? Any tips or tricks about getting that 50,000K goal?
This is something new to me.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd done this before.
No,
awesome.
no. So it's actually seems to be overwhelming, but I think my first impression would be to get from point A to point B.
So let me ask you this.
Similar to what Ruby had mentioned.
So let me ask you this, Michael, and then Shani, I'm going to ask you the same question. For both of you, if you can ask this group one question that you need the answer for about participating in Nano, what would that question be? Michael.
Is it as overwhelming and scary as it sounds?
No.
Okay. Okay.
No. Marianne, talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
you did it for the first time last year.
Yeah, and I was almost terrified because I thought there's no way I can do this. I can't do it. But I had kind of a vague outline. I don't always follow the outline, but so I just had my outline laying there. And when they gave the time, I just started writing. And it was like, it was so fun. And it wasn't scary at all. I mean, you're in a room full of everybody doing the same thing. And then when they call time on that, oh my God, it's like, oh God, I got to see what everybody's done. You know, it was so exciting.
Really, it is.
Thrilling.
It is.
And it was a real challenge for me. And I
you rose to the challenge because you went over the 50K.
Oh yeah, I did. What, 68, 70, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. After 54,000, I started getting lazy. So
yeah, it wasn't scary. It wasn't scary. Once you get in there, it's so much fun. Yeah. And you see the production that you're doing, you see how well that you're doing. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't think I could do this, but it is. And I'm so happy to do it again. I can't wait.
Okay.
Shani, do you have any questions for the group?
Yes, I do. How do you all overcome writer's block during this time?
Ruby, can you talk about that? How do you not allow writer's block to influence your Nano month?
Well, okay, so there's various ways to do it. One thing that happens is that writing itself is a habitual practice. So if you sit down in a certain place and you stare at a screen for a certain amount of time, eventually you're going to get into a habit of coming to a certain place and staring into space. So it often helps if you're having writer's block to change your location, find somewhere else to be. That is one option, and it works really well because I have found there's various places around the house where I sit down to do some writing, and the place I'm sitting in is the place where I either do other work or I watch TV, or sometimes I go to get a snack. And none of those are good things when you're supposed to be writing.
Yeah. One of the great things that made last year so much fun for me was we did word sprints 2 different times during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're normally a nighttime writer
Mm-hmm.
and you're having writer's block, maybe join the afternoon word sprints just to kind of turn things around a little bit and give yourself, like changing your environment. And if you can't leave your environment, maybe change the time of day that you write. So that might help. Rain, any writer's block suggestions? You've been doing this so many years.
Oh, Pantser.
Yeah.
So I just have to start at a different scene and I'm good. Especially when it comes to writing sprints, I especially like to write where the action is. That way I can, keep going. But and then after that, just kind of connect the scenes together if you, suddenly figure it out from there.
So that usually this is one of the first questions I ask, but we just jumped into things tonight. So who in the room is a pantser and who in the room is a plotter? I am a passionate plotter. Marianne?
I'm kind of half and half. I make an outline of what I want in the book, which in the order of like scenes. It doesn't always go that way, but it gives me something to fall back on.
Sure.
Okay, this is where I was going. But it never quite goes that way. Sometimes when I start writing, it just goes a different direction than I was planning to.
Yeah.
And it always seems to work out better that way. So kind of a little of each.
Ruby, what about you? Plotter or pantser?
I fully intend to be a plotter. It does not necessarily end up that way. I same problem. Sometimes my characters go off in a completely different direction. I just have to go with it.
Michael, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Plotter, like I mentioned before, I go walk the dogs or go walking. That's how I get my ideas, then come back.
Yeah.
And then plug away. So no, plotter.
Okay. Rain, you're a pantser, die in the wool pantser. You're not
hardcore.
I can't convince you otherwise.
Hardcore, no.
Yeah, okay. All right, fine. Jacob, Christian, what about you guys? Plotters, pantsers, Christian?
I'm kind of both. I think it depends on the project. There are, like with this one that I'm working on right now, there were definite ideas that I had that I wanted to explore, but then as I got deeper and deeper into it, those ideas changed. And
Sure.
It wasn't necessarily that the characters changed, but just the situation as I unfolded the layers of exactly who they were.
Yeah, as the details change, different things come out, right?
Yeah. And but I also with my rom-com for NaNoWriMo, I have a pretty solid plot in which I want to explore. So.
And Ashlyn just walked into the room. Welcome, Ashlyn. Haven't seen you in a while. Hi. Jacob, a plotter, pantser?
My brain is a melting pot of chaos. I mean, I'm a little bit of a hybrid, I guess, but you could ask me what's going to happen in book 5 of Valoria, the short story series of Valoria. You could ask me what happens in book 1, 2, and 3 of the sequel series. And I can tell you all those details, but to actually have it written down is never going to happen. No. So, she already knows what happens in Blood in the Rain 5. I've only written 2 of them, and it's all in there. I'm not going to write it down. I'm just going to write it.
Yep, I get it. Shani, are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm more of a plotter. I'm just like Marianne. I like to, so the book that I'm working on now, I've established an outline and I plan to follow it. But then as Ruby says, that once I get into it, it has a tendency to change a little bit and then I go back to my outline.
Yeah. I am a passionate plotter. I actually wrote an entire classroom curriculum for young children, and then I wrote again for older people. So I'm a whole filler. So before I ever start, I have an entire plot outline with all my plot points, and then I also have a complete character outline, so I know who the people are and how they will respond when I drop them into various situations. But the thing I like about that is for something like Nano, I do what Rain does, which is I jump into the action and I just write from the jump point. The nice thing about having an outline already determined is that I can write on Monday night in chapter 6, and I can write on chapter 2 on Tuesday night, and I can write on chapter 57 on Wednesday night. I can hop around. I can hop around and jump around because I already have a chronology of how my book is laid out. So I can jump in between and play with things. So here's the next question for everybody, and I'm going to start with Shani. Do you like writing? So when you sit down to write, do you think about fiction? Because the rest of us are fiction writers. So think about when you write your fiction, do you start with dialogue or do you start with narration? How do your stories come to you?
The first 2 fiction books I've written, I start with the story, not so much with the dialogue, and then a little later with the dialogue. So I try to just set the scene somewhat in the first few, I guess the first few paragraphs, and then I start in with the dialogue.
Awesome. Michael, do you start with dialogue or do you start with plot exposition?
Very similar to Shani. I set the stage, that with the dialogue, then I come back in and then follow up with the dialogue then with various people in the story. But it's important for me to set the stage, the narrative first.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Jacob, what about you?
I don't really have a preference. So a lot of times when I'm thinking on a project, it's kind of like watching a movie or having something playing in the background. I write it as it comes to me. It's not, I don't really have a preferred method, I guess. It's
right. So it just
come to me first. That's what gets written first.
You just vomit naturally in whatever order it happens.
It just yeah.
Yeah, okay. And Christian, what about you?
ADHD brain.
Do you hear Christian? Do you hear the conversations first or the story first?
Sometimes it's both. Like I said, it depends on the project. Usually it depends on how the idea comes to me. Where the inspiration has struck. If it's, the whole premise for my novella series was based on an idea. I was watching a show that I really liked, and there was a dynamic between 2 characters that I thought was really interesting. And I just thought, well, what does that really look like? Over the course of, we're seeing a snippet of them now, but what did that look like, 10, 15 years ago?
Sure.
So it depends. Sometimes I'll get a line, like a piece of dialogue will just come to me. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know who that is, but I want to explore that. And then,
it's like overhearing in a restaurant, right? You're like, I heard that, but which character said that?
Yeah, who are you? That's new. Or just an idea will just strike, and it's like, oh, well, let's just see where this goes. And so yeah, it's kind of both. It really depends.
Rain, what about you?
Well, as a pantser, it just, whatever comes to me, I can get, my ideas from, a dream that I had, from, a lyric, from an image, and that, again, whatever, draws my attention to that is, what little scene pops up in my head is either going to be an image, a setting, or dialogue. And then my chapters, I mean, I try to make them, as setting as possible, but I do have a chapter where I just start with dialogue because it's just what seemed better at the time. Like,
Sure. Ruby, how about you? How do I'm really curious, especially about the Mickey McKinney series, because your combination of dialogue and scene are so beautifully intertwined. I'm wondering how you write that, which comes first.
Well, for Mickey, it originally was a podcast, so literally everything was dialogue.
Okay.
And the only thing to really describe what was going on is either Mickey or Sam or Berners narrating the whole thing to kind of give the listeners a visual of what was going on. And then once I made it into narrative form, I kind of had to add more in between, and that was actually really, really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can understand that if you're starting from a podcast, everything would be conversation.
It at times it was very heavy-handed, and that really annoyed me because I knew it could be better, but sometimes the only way to get from one scene to another was just to write what I could and then just keep going and hopefully come back later and fix it.
The end result turned out great, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Marianne, how does Henry come into your head? Does that dialogue come first, those conversations? Because I noticed with the first Henry book, chapter 1 started with dialogue. So is that normally how it happens for you?
Yeah, I think I start more with dialogue than with background or anything. What I try to do and what comes to my mind is to write the first sentence or something that grabs the attention. Like that one that I read on your podcast the other day, like, where in tarnation is that man? That was the first thing in the book, something that kind of makes you go, oh, what's that about? And then I just kind of go from there. But I think most things, there are a couple maybe that I didn't start with dialogue, but I think most things I end up starting with dialogue or the character's thought process. What was he thinking? He starts out with his
and
thought.
in a way that's still dialogue because it's that internal dialogue thing.
Yeah, I write it more like dialogue. So yeah.
Okay. Shani, do you have any other questions for our panel of craziness here? As it applies to Nano, do you have any other first time Nano questions?
Have you ever not met the goal when you participated, and how did it make you feel?
Yeah. Rain, start with you. You haven't won all 17 years, have you?
I've only ever lost once.
Okay, I so don't like you right now.
So this is hopefully going to be my 16th win. And
so how did that work for you when you didn't win?
Well, because the year that I didn't win, I was trying to publish one of my books. And in the end, I had to make the decision on
publishing or writing,
like, which one. I can't, it was too much for me to do both. So I was all like, which one do I need to do? And I decided that, what, I really wanted to publish my books, and I did that. And in the end, I didn't even publish my books until 2020 anyway, but it made me feel a little I guess disappointed in myself because I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
But also, this was early on in my nano adventure
career.
In my nano career, right? It was pretty early on, so I hadn't joined in the community quite yet. So
you were still kind of winging it on your own.
So I was doing it on my own. Yeah. And, I was just like, okay, well, I got to make a decision. And, it kind of killed me a little on the inside, but I was like, you know what, I got to choose, because my mental capacity just could not handle doing both.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I've been doing Nano since, well, officially when I discovered the website. I guess it was like 2008 or something like that. And I remember the first several years I didn't win, and probably the first 4 or 5 years I didn't win, and the reason was because, fortunate me, I got kidney stones every November. And you know, when you're in that kind of pain, you just can't write. I don't care what anybody tells you.
Yeah.
But then there are a few years in there where I didn't get sick that I still didn't make my goal. And I was like, well, okay, you know, this is just an unattainable goal and it can't be done and fine and whatever. Well, then last year I got involved really heavily with this community. I've been involved with the community previously, but this is the first time I did it online. I finished early. I was ahead early. And now I just don't have an excuse. Now it's like, okay, now I know I can do 50,000 in 30 days. And now if I don't make that goal, I'm going to be really disappointed because now I know it's possible. So the one time you win, it kind of flips you into a different mindset. So my best suggestion, Shani, is that you just grab hold of it and go along for the ride, because when you're done, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I actually did that. Now there's no reason why. Here's the bigger problem, because I know Rain is shaking her head. Yeah. Here's the bigger problem. When you do it 1 month, then you say, you know what, 1,667 days, words a day is not insurmountable. Why am I not doing this 12 months out of the year? So the 1 month proves to you that it's possible, and then it pushes you to be a better writer all year long.
I still only write in November.
See, well, but you have a 5-year-old.
I'm a very slow editor. That's my
Okay.
thing. So doing my revisions, doing my self edits, getting my alpha readers involved, my beta readers involved, the editing that comes after that takes 11 months out of the year.
Okay.
So I only have time to write in November.
Okay, you're forgiven. Michael, do you have any questions for our panel here?
What happens if you're working on your project, you get to 30,000 words, and that's it? There's no reason for that particular project to write 30,001 words.
Well, you can always just start a new project. So
Okay.
Jacob, I see what you're doing there. Go ahead. Tell us what happens when you get to the 7th inning stretch. What do you do?
Well, I finished Unbound Book 3 last year. That was my project that I worked on. So then I started the Dreamscape. Got 30,000 words into that one. So that's why the goal for this time is to finish the Dreamscape, and then I can work on this one, and then I can work on this one, and then I can work on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess,
just
Michael,
I'm used to not having time to work with, so I hate being bored.
That's wow. Yeah. You are so not a person who tolerates boredom. So Michael, the way that what I guess Jacob is saying, or what I hear him saying, is that there's absolutely no reason why you can't start a second project halfway through the month. There's no rule against it. If you get to 30,000 and that story is done, start a new one the next day.
Okay.
Or if you get to 30,000 and that story is not done and you hit writer's block, that's where I always have 2 projects. Just move on to the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it
Multitasking
can be a
is
combination of 50,000 words.
sure.
That's the key. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Versus one project equals 50,000 words.
Nowadays, you can do that. Back, like Diana was saying, back in the beginning, it was like.
Well, okay. So in all fairness to the creators of the program, in the beginning, the idea was to keep it very strict and very rigid so that there's a formula and there's a program and there's a thing. And then NaNoWriMo got too big for its britches. And now the program is worldwide, and there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that participate in this program every year. And there had to be some wiggle room because we don't all write the same way.
There's people who write poetry. They don't write one poem of 50 words. They write poems.
Yeah. There are not people out there writing, the Iliad it isn't happening. Marianne, how did you handle your 7th inning stretch last year when you got to 30,000 words? Because I know for a lot of people, that's the point, especially for newbies, that's the point at which you go, I don't think I got any more left in the tank, right?
Yeah.
So how did you handle when you got to that point?
I just seemed to have more and more coming. It was like every time I sat down to write, ideas just kept going and going and going. And I would just jot down if I had a thought after in between sprints and stuff that looked like it was going a certain way or something. I would jot down that thought that I had. So when the next sprint started, I could go with that. So my thought process, the sprints and being in a room with everyone, it spurred me on to keep on going. And that's how I ended up with as many words as I did, because I never thought I'd be able to do that. I thought, boy, if I hit 15,000 words, I'll be lucky.
Yeah,
But
it's almost like
yeah.
an adrenaline rush at one
It
point,
is.
right?
That's exactly what it was. It just kept going. When it was time for me to go or I had to stop, I was like, oh man, I want to keep going,
Yeah. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. The session is over. I just hit my stride. That's
I
no
know,
fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
So
Yeah.
Ruby, when you're working on a project,
Mhm.
especially, we're thinking in the context of Nano,
Mhm.
does it help you or does it hinder you to have that competitive thing? Are you self-competitive or is it helpful to you to have that community behind you?
I'm not sure if it's self-competitive, but I was definitely vindictive when I was writing the first 6 Mickey books, and that was mostly
Great
someone
word.
saying Mickey will never amount to anything, and it was just me to say, let's see how many books I can write within 6 months. I did 12, so
Oh my God.
yeah, it was I did not get much sleep, but I did it, so brave.
What I'm learning about our community, Shani, if you haven't picked up on it yet, is we're all extreme overachievers, right? We're all working on multiple projects, sometimes simultaneously. I don't know why I attract overachievers, but for some reason, every time I get together with people, we're all in the same boat.
Mhm.
Christian, how did it work for you hitting that middle of the road stretch? What did you do to keep your momentum going?
Well, I decided that my project needed to be 3 different projects. Initially, my novella series was just one giant saga, and I had about 60 to 70-ish thousand words. I knew the premise was to follow these 2 characters from the time they were teenagers to the time they were in their mid-20s to the time they were in their mid-30s. And so what were the milestones at each stage? And as I wrote those scenes out, it just kind of all was all over the place. And I got to a point where I thought, oh my God, this is too much for one book. And so by going and splitting it up into, okay, this is the book when they're teenagers, this is going to be the book when they're in their 20s, and then this is the book that they're going to be in their 30s, it got it about 30,000, between 25 and 30-ish thousand a piece, from what I had, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But from there, it was just a matter of filling in the blanks. So I really just had to take some time and think about it. And my best friend is my best friend that's not my husband, I should say. She isn't a writer that she's seeking to publish anything, but she is very familiar with writing, and we have long discussions about characters and plots, and she's a really good feedback. And she will help me figure out, okay, well, if this is what you want, then this is how you can get there, and help me see to connect those dots.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point that we need to share with everybody, and that is having sounding boards to bounce ideas off of during this process is really important.
Yeah.
It helps you keep momentum going if you have somebody else to talk to your project about. I know Marianne and I kept each other going last year. And then having my husband to, every night he said, okay, how many words did you do tonight? Is that nightly check-in? And every night I wanted to say, oh yeah, so John, last night I did 1,500, tonight I did 30,000. And that was kind of like my validation that closing myself off into a room with a bunch of people on Zoom was a good use of my time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is part of the community, if you haven't been to the website yet, go to NaNoWriMo.org. That's NaNoWriMo.org. And that's where you can go. This is the national, I guess now, right, international website where you go and you can fill out a profile just like you would on social media, put your project in so that it's called declaring your project. Go in and say, okay, this is what I'm going to work on. You can put in cover art if you have it, or you can put in standalone art if you don't have it, or you can just leave that part blank. It's not required that you fill out all the little pieces to that profile form, but as much as you can, so that people know who you are. You can also connect with other people, connect with buddies, they call them. So everybody in the room tonight, everybody listening, if you would like to reach out to me on NaNoWriMo, you can find me at DKWP614. Rain, how can people find you?
You can find me under Rain Chan.
Okay.
Just one word, RAINECHAN.
Okay. Ruby, how can we find you? Have you done a profile yet?
I have a profile on Facebook. I think it's just something basic like author Ruby Fink.
Okay.
You can also find me on fauxfictionaudio.com. Website is a bit of a mess at the moment. I really need to fix it because I won some new awards and I need to figure out how to put them.
Yeah, you won new awards. That's a problem. I don't know how that's a problem, dear, but okay. Marianne, how can people find you on NaNoWriMo? Do you remember your login ID?
Yes, I believe it is MXW7300.
Okay.
I believe that's what it is. That's my Instagram thing too.
Okay.
That's one of my insurance companies login. I didn't want to forget, so that's why I used it.
Use one you'll never forget. That's what I do.
Yeah.
614 is my birthday. Make it easy, right? Jacob, do you want to share your Nano login so people can find you?
Sure, it's Team Dadashigan. So
yes, spell that.
Capital T, then EAM, obviously, and then space, and it's capital D, lowercase a, D, D, A, S, H, Y, G, A, N. So it's Daddy, my daughter Ash, the last of my son's name Logan. So, Team Dadashigan.
That's interesting.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Christian, do you have a Nano profile?
I do. I'm not as cool. I'm not Team Dadashigan. I got left out because I'm mom. My profile is capital letters K, C, L, and then YNNE, Casey Lynn. So
perfect. Michael, have you signed up for your NaNoWriMo profile yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay, awesome. When you do, send me a note on Facebook so that you and I can connect at the very least. Okay.
Okay.
Shani, have you signed up yet?
I haven't.
Okay, same thing for you. When you do, send me a note on Facebook and you and I at the very least will connect. One of the biggest things through NaNoWriMo is this sense of community and this helping each other to stay supportive and to stay engaged and to keep momentum. And the website is a great way to do that. The other thing that I love, and I got to tell you, it's the geek in me coming out, but when you upload your word count every day, You get to watch your progress on the
Oh,
little
yeah,
chart
yeah.
of happiness.
Mhm.
This is the greatest thing known to man. I'm telling you, you get to watch every day when you're done writing, whatever time of day that is for you, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is that you log your word count. I know a lot of people log their word count the following day. So you log your word count on Tuesday for Monday, because I know a lot of people like Marianne and I, we stay up writing into the middle of the night. So we fall asleep before we can log our word count. But the great thing about it is you get to watch the graph change as time goes on. So you get to watch your own progress as it moves up or down the graph. And that in and of itself, as I say, that's the geek in me coming out, but in and of itself, that little piece for me is probably the biggest motivator.
Yeah, that's very exciting. It's exciting to watch that. I got a real kick out of that. That
And
was
for
awesome.
me, I equate it, I used to be on a swim team and I swam competitively. And so for me, it's like watching my time go up every day. You know, like, oh, I did that 25 meter in 3 seconds shorter today than I did yesterday. So this is kind of the same idea, as you get to track your progress. And then I, just for an added built-in boost of adrenaline, accountability, fun, I also post my daily word count charts on my Facebook page. It's a great way to do that bragging rights thing.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
the website will also give you badges. It'll give
talk
you
about that. Talk about that.
It'll give you badges for like the first day that you log in your count. It'll give you badges for the first 5,000 words you write, for 25,000 words. It'll give you badges if you entered in your word count every day for 7 days. Like the site itself rewards you as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's again, it's the geek thing. They also have forums on the website that you can engage in conversation, not just with people who are in your immediate region, but you can talk to people all over the world who jump into these little discussion board forums, and you can get yourself lost in that stuff and forget that you're supposed to be writing because you're having conversations. So make sure that that's a big time management thing. Make sure you be involved, but don't be involved to the point of you forgot the point of the month. You know, get the word count in and then go be involved. But it is a tremendous amount of fun there. Jacob, you mentioned in the chat box just now that you are challenged with recording your word counts. So for Ruby and for Jacob, I have a question for both of you, because I know this is going to come out. You guys write longhand.
Yep.
Do you actually count your words every day, or do you just kind of do, okay, I did 2 pages, that's 250 words, round number, right?
Sort of. I mean, I have journals like this, and so I know if I do like 8 pages, that's like 2,000 words, give or take. So based on whatever journal you have, I mean, if you get a new one, obviously you're going to have to type it out and figure out, okay, so that's this many words. Then you kind of get an approximation from there.
So Jacob, you write on legal pads, longhand. How do you manage your word count goals?
Last year, I just took kind of an average. So I went through each page. I said, okay, well, this one had this many words, one had that many words.
Yeah.
And I would just kind of average based across. I'd take 5 pages. And I say, okay, it's 300 words a page on the average of these 5 pages. And that's kind of how I would track it. But as far as Remo last year, I didn't really use the online tools. It was just an excuse to keep writing. I didn't do any of the online stuff. I don't know. Didn't compute.
Right. No, I get it. And that's the great thing about this program, is that you can use the online tools to the extent that you choose to. You can go in and keep your word track every day. You can go in and collect all your badges. You can be a part of the forums or not. You don't even have to, I mean, you can go into NaNoWriMo, make a profile, and then just lurk. If you're doing it for the first time, Michael and Shani, you can just go in and kind of step back and watch how things happen on the website. if you don't want the high pressure of, keeping up with the reins of the world. Or you can jump in and you can use it to its full advantage. So it's really, really wonderful that way. Are there any other questions, Shani, that you have about this program? I don't want to miss any key questions that you might have.
Well, I know you mentioned that you can establish an accountability partner to help you along the way, but with NaNoWriMo, is there like maybe, I know you all have a group in Michigan, but do they have like satellite groups in different regions that maybe meets regularly?
Absolutely. Rain, talk about the different regions.
There is a region for everywhere in the world. It just also depends on how close you are to a certain region. So like in Michigan, if you go to the forums and you actually you can home a region that's closest to you, or you can home another region, with
if you wanted to,
nobody really minds.
If you really wanted to, you could join the London, England region.
Yeah.
Because now that we have everything is online, you can go to what they call write-ins, which are in your local city. Libraries, bookstores, lots of places like that will host write-ins where you can physically go and write. But online, I mean, you can literally be part of a region. You could be part of 8 different regions if you wanted to.
But it's always, especially because now what they're doing is they're doing what's called hybrid. So they are doing certain things are going to be online, certain other things are going to be in person. And you definitely might want to look at your region closest to you. So it's going to be by state, and then it's going to be by city closest to you. And just check to see what is going on in that forum, because a lot of times they're going to have the write-ins listed, and they'll let you know if something's going on near you.
There's a whole calendar of events for you.
There is a whole calendar of events.
And then there's an international calendar as well.
Yeah.
So as broad or as narrow as you want to get with it, it really does allow for almost anybody to play in whatever way works best for them.
And then also it, especially after Nano's done, it helps you keep track of the events that go on during the other 11 months. I know that in our Detroit region, we have a monthly, third Tuesday of the month write-in. And so it all depends on what your region has going on, but it's always fun to meet these people in person the other 11 months of the year when you're not mad rush to the finish line.
And we need to also mention, just real quick, I'm not going to focus on it a lot, but in April and in June every year they do what's called NaNoWriMo Camp, which is just like NaNoWriMo, but in spring and summer. For those of us who have to, I remember for a lot of years, I was making Thanksgiving dinner for 20 people every year. And I did not have time to write that last week of November. So participating in April and June made more sense to me than doing it in November. I don't do Thanksgiving for dozens of people anymore. So doing it in November works for me.
As much as I have done Nano for 17 years, I have never once participated in Camp Nano. Don't you create your own word count as well? It's not a hard 50,000 words. Okay.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about camp, is that it's not a hard 50,000. If you're writing a novella or a middle grade book and you just want to stay accountable for that 30,000 words, you can certainly do that through camp. And camp is a little bit looser. They let you create your own tents, they call them. So 4, 5, 6 people in a tent kind of a thing, little tiny groups to stay motivated. The overall project is very similar, but it does have some little nuances. So in January, start looking at the website again to see they'll start talking about summer camp or spring camp at that time, and you'll get all those details then. And the online swag is fun, and it's just fun. the graphics are fun. Michael, do you have any other questions about Nano?
Not at this time, no. Some good, I appreciate the good discussion about it.
Yeah. Okay, to wrap up our conversation tonight, I would like to finish going around the room and find out one of the most important things you can do to maintain momentum and get across that finish line is to set up rewards for yourself, whether they are silly little digital swag you get because you won a word sprint. I mean, seriously, folks, a digital meme that you put on your Facebook page is remarkably motivating. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It is. So some people go to the milestones, 1,000 words, 15,000 words, 20,000 words, 25, 45, 50, whatever. Some people say, okay, when I finish 3 chapters, I'm going to reward myself. Some people say I'm not going to reward myself until the very end. But I think that reward system is really important. For me, it's usually a pot of fondue because I have a cheese fetish. It's my thing. So let's go around the room and everybody talk about how you're going to reward yourself for either milestones along the way or at the end of the project when you've got your 50K. What do you think a reward might be to get you through the month? Marianne, let's start with you.
You know, I hadn't thought about that because what I rewarded myself with last year was when I finished, I took several weeks off not writing anything at all. And unfortunately, that carried through for a few more months. I'm going to have to think about some sort of reward system. I really hadn't thought about that.
Can I suggest that you don't make it canning food?
Oh my God.
Because you do that throughout the rest of the year, and that's not really a reward.
I know. But you know, I enjoy that.
I know.
And
so noodle that around in your head, how you might reward yourself throughout the program.
Well, I think for me, now I think about it, the thing that spurs me is writing with other people. Like when we used to do that, you did your weekly group. I used to get a lot of writing done with that. And I think for me, yeah, maybe I'll have to figure out setting up something to keep my momentum going. I'll have to think about that.
Well, now that COVID is over, maybe we should all just like throw a dinner party and that'll be a reward. Yeah. Ruby, that means you'd have to come to Michigan, but you know, Ruby, what?
I will.
How do you think you might reward yourself this year?
All right. So usually when I'm running behind on deadlines, I pull all-nighters. So my reward is sleep. That doesn't strike me as particularly healthy. But I've been really wanting to finish the story for a while and to kind of get it started towards getting it published and, well, edited first, then published, then do the audiobook, which will be a lot of fun because
audiobooks make great rewards.
Yes,
because that's a major milestone thing. That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So, Christian, how do you reward yourself when you finish the project in November?
Well, I'm gonna have to think about it. Right now, my only reward is actually finishing.
Okay, that in and of itself is a reward.
Well, I had such a bad habit of starting projects and never finishing them, and it went on and on and on. And I finally last year said, I'm done with that. I want to actually finish a project. And so the satisfaction of knowing I have completed a book is rewarding for me personally.
Sure.
But so I might have to think about a physical reward. I think last year when Jacob finished, we had a date night. I think we went to go see something.
That's good too. I like date night. Date night's good. Jacob, what about you? How do you like to reward yourself when you finish Nano?
Well,
I'm
Okay, so
yourself.
for those
After
of
you
you who
finish
are
the
on
book.
radio and you're not seeing this in real life, his daughter Ashlyn is now patting him on the shoulder with a big grin on her face, going, "I'm a reward, right, Dad?"
Well,
He has a very special way.
well, I get bored very quickly. So usually being able to work on what I want to write is the reward. Because usually 3/4 of the way through the book, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to get it over with and be done with it because I want to do this now. And I'm chasing the next shiny thing at all times, I guess. And that's,
Yeah.
I will throw in there that for the last year or so, I had him on a new book ban because he I know. See that face? Yeah. It's because he has like 4 different series that are incomplete. And
Mhm.
it's always like, oh, I got a new idea for a new book and a new book series. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Stop writing new series and finish the ones that you already have.
Yeah.
Like,
I hear that complaint from my husband on a regular basis. Can you just finish the darn book you're working on now, please, before you start a new one?
yeah, well, it's not even a new book. It's just finish a series. Like he wrote Shield of Vanera for Valoria, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and he's just now finishing. Yeah, 6 years ago, and he's just now finishing book 4 out of 5. I was like, come on, man, like
it's in editing.
you need to actually like finish one of these before.
Okay,
you start
Jacob.
another one.
Jacob, you cannot blame me for this. You are writing way too fast. Rain,
Now
how
that
do
he's
you?
at least finished Valoria 4, I have released the new book band, so that's why he's working on
I have to finish
Dreamscape.
the Dreamscape first.
And it's your new book.
I had
You
to
guys-
finish the
yeah.
Dreamscape, and I have to edit the adaptables.
Yeah.
You know what? You guys squabbling about which books to finish. This is not a problem. And Rain, how do you reward yourself at the end of the program?
Canadian chocolate bars every 1,000 words.
Nice.
I have this delivered specifically from Canada.
That's nice.
It is my favorite chocolate bar. It is for people who cannot see my video. People on the podcast, it is Cadbury Crunchy. It is sponge toffee.
Nice.
And once I reach 50,000 words, my reward is video games.
I like it. I like it. So, Shani, now that you've heard all this wackiness, how do you think you might reward yourself for writing 50,000 words in a month?
I think I like everyone's suggestions as far as like a midway point and then at the end. So for my midway point, I think I will pamper myself by getting my nails done. I
Nice.
usually do my nails on my own. And then at the very end, I will treat myself to dinner at one of my favorite restaurants.
That's
that
a
sounds
good choice. Yeah, that's why I do fondue, because it's not a place that my husband loves to go. So I only do it sparingly, but I go and then dive into the pot. I do a whole pot all by myself. It's crazy. Michael, how do you think you might reward yourself this year?
I think I would try to reward myself when I'm completely done, and then promptly go and visit every bakery in the state of Michigan.
This is
Every
a goal.
county, every city,
I like that.
every bakery.
How many different chocolate chip cookies can we find?
Finding's not the problem. Stuffing them 2 at a time, that's the problem.
Yeah, finding enough milk to go with them, I think, is
Yes.
the bigger problem. Awesome. All right. So I started this thing when I first did a virtual book festival. It's not actually the first one, though, like the third one. We did this wacky thing. It was a sailing theme, and it was called the Reading Regatta, and we just had it was nuts. And I started this thing called Parting Shots Across the Bow, because it was a nautical theme, and you got to do something, right? So I'm going to go around the room, and everybody give me your parting shot about NaNoWriMo or about our conversation tonight. Ruby, you get to go first. Parting shots.
Is it supposed to be insulting or complimentary? Or
You get to pick. Imagine a cannon on the bow of a boat, and it's the final cannonball you get to shoot.
Oh, okay. The words "eat my foam" comes to mind. Back of the boat. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of panicking here. I have no idea.
Okay, note to self, don't put Ruby on the spot.
Thank you.
Marianne, parting shots.
I would say I am so happy that this meeting happened. I'm glad to see some of the other writers, and I'm glad to see new people, Shani and Mike, that are new to the NaNoWriMo thing. I think you're going to love it. It's great, and I think this has been a good motivational thing for me. This is making me excited to get started in this, and so I think everybody's going to enjoy it, and I'm hoping to see everybody in some of the writing sprints.
Awesome. Jacob, parting shots across the bow, sir.
I just think that honestly, whether you're 50,000 words or 50 words, you're still writing. That's really what the goal is. You don't really lose as long as you've got the chance to write. So, I mean, just do it. It's just write.
Yeah, just do it. I like it. Christian, what about you? Parting
I'm gonna
shots?
kick your ass. Those are my parting shots.
I like it.
He's got 10 books on me. I'm gonna kick his butt.
I like it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, 12. He's got 12 books on me. Yeah.
Jacob's got 12. Christian has got one out so far, and she's working on 2 others.
I'm gonna be sending you my second book probably at the beginning of the year.
Perfect. But you know what? I gotta say, in all fairness to Christian, she has been pregnant twice, Jacob. So
I'm not in this as a competition. I just
I
just want it out of my head.
I am 100% in this as a competition.
Perfect. I love that.
Hashtag couples writing world.
Exactly.
Shani, your parting shots across the bow, ma'am.
Well, first, Diana, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. This was very educational, inspirational, and motivational
Oh, good.
for me. And that's been my desire to be around like-minded people, and you all are high achievers, so that's motivating me, especially in this season in my life, to really hunker down and get the words written and then be proud of myself to add another
Absolutely.
check on the list of my accomplishments. So thank you all.
Everybody here in this room will absolutely support you 100%. No question. Michael, shotting parts across the bow. Diana's getting tired.
To set a goal of not being overwhelmed
I
by
like it.
this project.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's go.
because you know what? Jacob was absolutely spot on. You don't lose anything for doing it, right?
Yeah.
Whether you do 5 words or 50,000, you still can't lose. You're getting words on the page.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Madame Shane, you've been with this program almost as long as we've all been alive. I can't even believe you've done it so many years in a row. What would be your closing shot across the bow? How would you like to wrap up tonight's meeting?
Just have fun. The most important thing, just have fun.
See, not hard, guys. I mean, boil it down to just have fun. How can you go wrong? Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I had a ton of fun. I hope you did too.
Yes, me too.
And maybe watch the Facebook page, and maybe we'll do a midpoint check-in in the middle of November at some point. See how you guys are all doing, and we'll do another thing like this that doesn't compete with writing. We'll do it at a time when there isn't a writing sprint, at least in Michigan. So thank you all again for coming. I'm so glad you were all here, and I wish you tremendous success in the coming NaNoWriMo. And again, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to contact me at DKPW DKPWP614 or at dkpwriter.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, and I'd be more than happy to help you out in any possible way I can. And if somebody out there, if you really need the support and you want to do a 2 a.m. middle of the night write-in, let's set it up and do it. I don't mind being up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, me neither.
Have a wonderful night, everybody, and thank you so much for coming.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much, Diana.
Thank you for
Goodbye.
having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.